every soul is a candle.
Good evening, everybody. Well, it's evening here. I don't know what time you'll be watching this or listening to this or where you'll be, but may you be well wherever you are. And this is Phillip Namanworth, Creative Spirituality, a class that is the continuing class that started in 1987. So this is our 38th year of get-togethers, of which were often in my home. Then they were in different locations, some in different synagogues or places or people's houses. So things have a habit of transforming once we commit to them. We begin our journeys not knowing exactly where they're going, but with some idea of where they're going or some idea of what we're doing. And then all of a sudden, a road opens that you didn't see before. You might even say, that road was always there, but I never saw it until I started my journey. And this is one of the great benefits of commitment to something. Until you're full in, you can't get the full reward of it. It's like a relationship with all its ups and downs. You can't get the full rewards and depth of them unless you're in all the way. It's like having a business and not caring about what your bottom line is. You have to be in the business of living life each day. We are following in very loose form the structure of the Torah, and this week is the 7th chapter of the Torah. It's called Vayetzei. So I think we're going to just keep on something that came up because of the questions from Brian and other people. What candle am I, and who are these people? It's very important to really know who the people we're talking about are, because they're not just stories. They're your real ancestor. I don't know if you've ever seen that show on TV where they find out their ancestry and they find a picture and then they find a record of somebody and they find out he did this or she did that. We have the record of your ancestors written down and we study it all the time. Someone's always studying about our family, your family. I want to just take a side issue first and say my teacher is fond of saying, quoting from Jewish mysticism, that the light always shines both ways. In other words, when you're learning and studying together, which we are doing, we're learning together. Even though maybe I am speaking and giving over some information, the light that comes back to me is huge. And it goes to everyone else from everyone being here. So in the Talmud, it says, I have learned much from my teachers, more from my colleagues, but I've learned the most from my students. It seems like it's backwards. You would think that, from my teachers, I learned the most, right? From my friends, yeah, we bat it out, we argue a lot, and you get a little extra. But from your students, maybe you have students who've never been introduced to a topic before. So what could possibly be prompting them to make this statement? And the statement becomes because a teacher, when they prepare, and I don't know if that's me, I think it is, but it may or may not be, they prepare certain subjects, things they want to talk about, angles they want to pursue, things they know about already. And then when you get someone hasn't been studying for a while, or maybe has been studying for a while, and they ask you something out of left field or something you hadn't thought about or something that wasn't on your mind, you have to go back inside yourself and dig deeper. So the teacher has to dig deeper to find out how to answer something. It's not that they don't know, haven't experienced it as something, but it's sort of like they're not prepared because we're ready to talk about a certain topic. So this is the wonderful thing of studying. It's not, you see that even if someone, because each of us have such different experiences in our life, our questions come from our own experiences because each of our experiences is valuable. A teacher might have more insight into the way that a certain road goes, but each of us bring with it our unique talents and views of the world and other things. And when we hear them, they just enlighten everybody because since we're all different, very often you'll hear someone say to me, "I never thought of that." Well, how does that apply? Why are you asking that? And which is a good question. So I thank everybody for the questions we've had. And one of the things that has come about is that we're starting to talk more and more about who these people are, when they appeared in history and who they are. So I think I might give like a formal overview of the entire book of Bereshit tonight, a little bit. It has 11 chapters. There's approximately 54 chapters of Parshas in the Torah, depending on how one counts them. And we've been studying the book of Bereshit, which is called Sefer HaYashar, the book of the upright. It's our history. As mentioned before, most of us are more familiar with the next book, which is Shmos, which is Exodus, the story of Egypt, the story of Pharaoh and Moses. No matter how far away you are, you've seen some movie or heard about it, or it's part of the consciousness of the world. But the first book, creation itself, and the people who are in it, and when they appear, and when they don't appear, and what they contributed, you see a very interesting format. So in the first parsha, which is Bereshit, was about the creation of the world, we say, oh, a world. God's telling us there is a world. How do I know that there's a world and not an illusion? Because it says in the Torah. Many people go around different kind of beliefs and say, oh, the whole world's an illusion, until someone hits them in the arm or something and they go, oh, the illusion hit me. It's not an illusion. It's a world that's created for a purpose in a certain order. And at the end of the very first Parsha, someone named Noah appears, 10 generations after Adam. Adam and Chava. And the world seems to have taken a bad course because we call it measure for measure. Some people call it karma. All of a sudden, you have in the second parsha, we had the creation of the world, something that might destroy the world, right? All of a sudden, you have a flood. Because for the 10 generations between Adam and Noah, people refused to stay connected to the universe. They had everything, so there was no reason, they thought, for any higher beliefs or actually their behavior towards each other, which was abominable. It wasn't about people just having idol worship, because one thing leads to the other. And one of the first questions that comes up in the very first chapter is the Adam and Chava eat of the tree of knowledge, of good and evil, so to speak. And God says to them, they're hiding. They hear God walking in the garden, whatever that means. And God says, Ayeka, where are you? One of the first questions in the whole Torah is, where are you? Hey, man, where are you? It's like talking to a friend and they seem to blitz out. You see their eyes go off in some direction or they're totally not there. And you go, hey, where are you? Right? You know that expression? Come back. We were talking about something. Then you have the parsha of Noah, where it says Noah is a righteous man. He has three sons. Number of different things happen. And then there's the flood, which is a mikvah. So the world is created and then it's refined right away from the impurities that come. And only in the beginning of the third chapter, we hear of this gentleman named Abraham, whose name is Avram originally, who after 20 generations of people, even though there were people who believed here and there and were in touch and were in connection with the oneness of the universe, most of them were just, since they had everything they needed, they just said, why bother? And they caused a certain amount of spiritual corruption in the world. Avram came along and saw that something was not right. The first person to really admit that something was really wrong, like today, something is really wrong. And the analysts are trying to figure out what's really wrong. And they're feeding us a bunch of propaganda about what's wrong. But he said, what's wrong? And he said, I see there is a force in the universe that we're not acknowledging and we're not plugging into. It's like to get your full energy, you have to have the electricity flowing through you, right? On a day when you feel like schwach, you can't do anything, the electricity is a little bit, you know what I mean? It's turned down a little bit. But when the voltage is up, you're out running around doing things, feeling good, feeling close to people, et cetera, et cetera. Abraham is the one who delved into the universe and said, I'm looking for this thing called, I don't know what to call it, God. And he figures out that this is the wrong question. The question is, if reality is reality, I'm the add-on. And what I have to do is just let reality in instead of trying to think of it as something outside of myself. It's like looking for love outside of yourself without being able to connect to yourself. And he's so honest and on such a high level that he brings back, so to speak, a level of truth to the world. As we've said before, God, it says in the first chapter of the Torah, God created all humans in the image of God. There were no Jews, no non-Jews, no, just every people. The original idea that was set forth was that all people would have a certain higher consciousness. And it's funny that many Jews, still believe that. Except what happened was they denied it, corrupted it, and couldn't handle it. So when Abraham came along and he was 100% in, 100% committed, Hashem said, well, this will be the father of a family that will take over that job of spreading divine consciousness. So that's the third chapter. The fourth chapter is called Vayera. So the third and fourth chapter are about Abraham. Okay? After Abraham, we have a chapter called after Vayera, which involves also the bris milah. Oh no, you can't have that until we have Isaac. One second. After Vayera comes Chayasara. So Chayasara is the introduction of the the part and the power of Abraham's wife, who was his niece, who God tells him she's on a higher level than you are. It says in the Talmud that women have more bina, which is a form of understanding. It's a different form of one of the three aspects of knowledge. Men and women both have intellect, but there are different shades of intellect. Some people can come up with ideas. No, I don't know if you've ever been around people come up with original ideas like every minute or something. And then there are some people who say, well, how do we use that idea? That's more what is for Sarah. So she gets one chapter. Then you have a parsha called Toldos. Now, in Sarah and Toldos, before that, they can't have a child. So Abraham's has a handmaid from Egypt from when they were down there. And Sarah says, please take my handmaid and cohabit with her. And they have a child called Ishmael. So now we've got Abraham, Sarah, and Ishmael, who turns out to be not exactly interested in higher consciousness and from a different source in a way. After Toldos, after Hayasar, we have Ishmael, and then we have Toldos, which is a birth of Isaac. I probably have all this wrong, but the orders are right, but the parshas are probably wrong. The birth of Isaac, and we saw in the parshas that Ishmael was against him, and Abraham had to, by God's telling him to listen to Sarah, send away Ishmael and Hagar, because it was negative towards Isaac. What we're doing here is building a spiritual foundation for the world. If you see the whole story of the Torah it's the beginning of the spiritual foundation of the universe. Abraham had a certain purity and high level. It was important that Isaac be pure, and he couldn't be on a level of negativity, which was Ishmael. Then we have the story of Isaac in one chapter in Toldos, and he gives birth to Jacob and Esau. Okay, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And one of these children is in line, Ishtam, Jacob, who was a man of tents, who was in line with the teachings of the father and of his grandfather, and in the way of life of spreading the divine word and higher consciousness to the world, which is the purpose of the creation and wherever we're doing. We're supposed to make things brighter, lighter, spread light wherever you go, not bring it down or just take advantage of it and live on the next generation takes advantage of it. So we notice that Abraham had one son who was negative. We notice that Yitzchak had one son who was negative. And then we have Yaakov. He appears in this chapter, and there are 5 whole chapters that have Yaakov in them, because he is the main, we are called the children of Israel. Israel is the name given to Yaakov when he wrestles with an angel in next week's Parsha. That part of him got to such a high level that he was in tune with the universe. So in the Talmud, it says, before the Torah was given, the forefathers knew everything that was in it. Except there was a difference because they didn't bring it into the world in a certain way. It was mostly for them. There was residue. Abraham called people to call on God's name. Isaac brought people closer and made them do a little work. Now, Yaakov, he had a very, very difficult job. His brother was trying to kill him, Esau, and his name, as you know, he was Esau was born reddish, and it comes from the word Asaph, made, self-made, and Jacob came out holding his heel. In fact, Yud Akef means Yud, heel. His job in life was to take the energy that of the Esau, of the animal soul, and bring it into spirituality from the head, which the name Yisrael represents, Li Rosh, down to the heel. Except at this time, because it's such a dramatic story, he's has to leave town because Esau wants to kill him because he so to speak stole blessings, but which is confusing because we know from reading the Parshas that he bought those blessings legitimately. And then, so his mother tells him he has to leave town because Esau's going to kill him. And then she tells Isaac, and Isaac says, "If I don't want him to marry one of these women, these Canaanites, because Esau's wives are, they're worshiping idols." So his father sends him away. So there are our forefathers: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Sarah, and Rivka so far. And they are all on a level sort of above creation in some way in terms of their divine imprint. And Jacob, it says, Vayetzei Yaakov Harana Mivesheva. Jacob went to Haran, which was sent there by his mother, and she said, "Go to my father's house, Lavan, and find a woman, find a bride there." He goes off and he finds Lavan, who is the master trickster. I guess in the books of the common culture, the Carlos Castaneda, he would be called the trickster. Whatever happened, he was trying to cheat you and deceive you because that's what materiality and physicality can do. It can taunt you into thinking that there's reality and meaning into things you acquire and get just for your selfishness. But really, it's more empty when you come to it. However, which world do we live in? We don't live like a shepherd like Abraham or Isaac. We live in the real world. So Jacob has learned these strange skills. He deceives his father for a good reason, and he's going to go live with his uncle, who is the master trickster. He finds his uncle. He sees a woman at the well, Rachel. He falls in love with Rachel. He says to Laban, after a month of staying there, Laban says, you're helping me out here. What do you want to get paid? He says, I'll work for you for 7 years if you give me Rachel in marriage. Then it says the 7 years went by very quickly, as though it was a short time, because of the love that he had. Look at that definition of love, because he was working towards a purpose, a holy purpose. And what happens on the night of their wedding? Here comes the trickster. It's dark. The father sends in Leah, and he has relations with her, and they're married. But look how close the sisters were, Rachel and Leah. Rachel told Leah like secret certain passwords that they had so that he would know it was her. But she did that for her sister. This is who these people are. So Jacob is complaining and he says, I wanted to marry this woman and you gave me this other woman. He says, well, we don't give the younger one away first. He says, I'll tell you what, do the celebrations for a week, then you can marry Rachel as well, and you'll work another 7 years for me. At this time, Laban sees that he's becoming rich. All his flocks are prospering. He's having boy children instead of just girls, because Rachel was a shepherdess because he didn't have any sons. And they agree to this. And it's so strange that if you're reading this for the first story, you have to say, or you don't have to say, but you could say very well, what the heck is this all about? He wants to marry the girl he loves, and he gets tricked into marrying her sister, who it says has weak eyes. She's a little different. He really loves Rachel. So, since we're learning who the characters are, one of the incredible lessons about that is that when a man gets married, he gets two women at the same time. Now, is anybody interested in what that means? You marry Rachel because you love her, but daily life is not a love fest of all the time. So you're with someone who's a real person, who has their own personality, and you build a home, which is a difficult thing, and you wind up living with Leah, someone who's a daily person, a presence. It's not the love fest that you thought. It's why many times when people get together after their fantasy life of 3 months wears off, they try something else because, the fantasy's worn off. But the truth is, a man and a wife are both things to each other. You marry for love, but there's the whole business of life. This is the origin of the custom at a Jewish wedding. Have you ever seen where the bride comes in and they cover her face? Who hasn't been to a Jewish wedding? They cover the bride's face, and then the groom comes in, checks it's the right one, and goes out. That's it, because she was originally concealed. You thought you were just marrying for romance and passion, and God willing, that stays too. But daily life is 95% of the time making a living, raising children, and going to work, um, health issues, everything. You need to have a partner who you can go through all of that with. And this answers another question of, in Parshat Toldos, where whichever Parsha, Abraham sends Eliezer to find a wife for Yitzhak. It's all about someone making a shidduch. It's about marriage. It's the first marriage in the Torah. And that chapter is with Yitzhak. And we learn many of the laws and the lessons of marriage from Yitzhak. Yitzhak is the only one who didn't really travel anywhere. He was the forefather who stayed within the country. Abraham traveled around. We see that Jacob traveled around, but the one who who we want to emulate in terms of marriage is Isaac, because it was in the daily life, he brought out the beauty of what it is to be together in a daily manner. Doesn't mean people don't take a day off or so, but he's the reason. And we see this happening when we talk about what relationships are about. You see, the first part of the Torah tells us so much about relationships, even Adam and Chava. And at the end of the chapter where Rivka comes and meets Yitzhak, it says, he took her into the house, he married her, and he loved her. Now, what's the normal route. The normal route for people is you love her, you marry her, you take her into the house. This is backwards. She came into the house and they saw that the dough was blessed, that the candles were blessed, and that the clouds above the house were blessed. In other words, he saw that the quality of the person was extraordinary. In fact, equal to his mother, who was on such a high level. And he married her, and then he loved her. The love was composed of so many layers. It was who the person was. It was how they interacted, how they were in the relationship, and of course the feelings as well. All of these are just extraordinary talks about relationship. So this is the building of the Jewish family. Now, after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob goes on to marry Rachel and Leah and Zilpah, who's Leah's handmaid, and Bilhah. Rachel and Leah are the main wives. That's when the forefathers and foremothers era comes to an end in a way. In other words, each person, man and woman, has a piece of those people: Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. It's in everybody. After that, since diversity is expressed the most when you're talking from the ultimate unity, ultimately, the Jewish people are one unity. And the diversity comes because unity, not because there's multiplicity, but when something is a oneness, it creates many modes of expression. You can have 20 people saying the same thing in different ways. Jacob comes back. He's married first Leah, then Rachel. He gets Zilpah and Bilhah, and then they start having children. Leah has first child. Who knows who the first child was? Shlo, feel free to answer as well. I don't know if you're there. First child was Reuven. Since Leah felt that she wasn't the one he originally wanted, she prayed very hard, and Reuven means God has seen my anguish. And he's the firstborn. And then she's praying again, and she has a son. God has heard me, Shimon, which means that God has been listening to her. And this is to Brian, when we talk about who these people were, everybody's name, including ours, if your name is Mordecai or whatever, when you discover who they were, you discover something about yourself that's a deeper level of the Jewish name. The Jewish name is an inside name. The other name is a sort of an outside name. And we're in the inside month. Kislev is the month of light, and it's sort of the month of the giving of the meanings, of the hidden meanings in the Torah that are expressed through Jewish mysticism. So Jacob comes back. He's let's see. Leah has 4 children first: Reuben, Shimon, Levi, which means that now Jacob will accompany me, and then Yehuda, which is a form of thanks. Hoda'ah, the name thanks, is the 4th child. And somehow he knows that he's going to have 12 children. He knows this is part of the cosmic plan. If you remember, we've spoken about the permutations of the name of Hashem, a Yud Hey and Vav Hey. How many letters can you make out of 4 letters? And of course, the permutation 4 times 3 times 2 is 24. But when 2 of those letters are the same, two letter Hey, you get the permutation is 12. And the way that holiness will express itself in the world will have 12 different channels, like the 12 different constellations. So Jacob knew that there were going to be 12 tribes, and the wives knew it as well. So they were sort of competing in a way. Rachel was not able to have children yet. So she gives her handmaid Bilhah to Jacob to stay with, and he has two children with her, Dan, which means God has judged me, and Naphtali, which I'm not so sure what the meaning was there. Later it means wrestling, but answered. So now they've got six children. And so Leah sees that she should give her, Rachel sees she should give her, she gave her handmaid, Leah gives her handmaid Zilpah, and they have two children altogether. So we have Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. It's go eight there. Then Rachel finally begs Jacob and prays to God, and Hashem answers Rachel because Rachel was his first love, and she really wanted a child. And she names him Yosef, and he's 11. He's the 11th child. These are the tribes. Each of us are from these tribes. So when we understand the differences between them and the commonalities, we can maybe find some clue to our own connection in life. We don't know today exactly who's who, except if you're a Kohen or a Levi, because that's a tradition that's come down through the ages, and we give what's called a hazaka, which means that we believe a person if they say they're a Kohen or a Levi, because they've been handed down from generation to generation, though they cannot perform something that the Kohens used to do, like tell whether there's Sarah As. They still get the first Aliyah, and the Levites sang in the Beis Hamikdash, and they taught Torah. And then Jacob gets fed up with what? He's made a deal with Lavan about raising his sheep and of getting his own sheep from it. And he wants to leave because his wages keep getting changed all the time. What is he learning? He's learning a course. He's going to come out of this thing with a master's in business education, right? He's dealing with this guy who's trying to trick him all the time, and he's got to come up with things. He's not going to become a trickster, but you have to use the methods of the world to get through the world. You don't lower yourself, but you have to learn how to navigate through it. Not give into it, but navigate through it and understand the way it works. So he wants to leave, and he tells Lavan he wants to leave, and he says, yeah, but you don't, what should I give you? And he says, I'll tell you what, I'll work 6 years, and whatever sheep, certain kind of sheep I raise, I'll give some to you and some to me. Here's what we'll do. Go through the sheep, take away all the ones that have speckled feet or little marks on them, and just leave me the ones that are pure. And no, leave me the speckled sheep. You take all the pure ones and leave me the speckled and marked sheep. And the next batch that comes up, if any of them are pure, I'll give them to you. I might have this backwards again, but he does that, and an incredibly interesting thing happens. If you're reading this story, you got to say, what's going on? He takes a kind of growth and strips the bark off and puts it in front of the sheep so that when his sheep see it, they give birth to striped and other kinds of sheep. And he keeps those and he gives love in the others. And this keeps going on until now Jacob is rich. Now, even if you're just reading the story, it's quite fantastic if you're writing a story. You could have just said he went, he got some wives, he came back. No, a story. Why do we tell a story? What's the difference between one of the famous writers, E.M. Forster, in his book on the aspects of the novel, he says, here's what a story is. If you write the queen died and the king died after, that's information. It's not a story. But if you write the queen died and the king died of grief, that's a story. You're telling something about the people. So now this is Jacob, our forefather, and he's pretty much tricked his brother into getting the blessings. And now he's doing this other kind of trick on his uncle to have some kind of wealth. What is that for us? Who are these people? Who are Rachel and Leah, who love each other, and yet they're competing to be the foremothers of the Jewish people? They understand what's at stake. Divine consciousness in the world. It says in the Midrash Tanchuma, God created the world tachlis amitas, is to have a home in this world, that God wants a home in this material world. Now, materiality covers sacredness. So whenever you do something that's holy, a mitzvah, or studying, you reveal divine consciousness. So whatever you do at your level of learning, you are revealing something in your environment that brings more light. And you can't sit, even if you wanted to sit around and study all day, most people have to get up and go to work. You study a little, you go to work, and that's where you need to be Jacob. You can't be totally separated from the world, though some people believe in that formula of seclusion. And our belief here is the transformation of whatever we encounter through using the techniques of holiness to elevate the sparks that are hidden in every place you go. I know that sounds like very mystical, but it means that wherever you go, you were sent to that place, and there's something for you to do in that place to elevate it. Maybe it's to give charity. Maybe it's to raise someone's spirits. Maybe it's to learn something. But it's depending on where your consciousness is. But since we're not on the level of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob yet, Hashem sends us, I'm going to this place to earn money. I'm going to this place to make a friend. He gives us an excuse to go to some places, whereas certain people who are much more in tune know that they should go some places because there's something for them to elevate or some job that needs done. So what we've done just now is just reviewed the first 6 chapters of the Torah as what's going to happen. And let's just take a quick journey from here. We have the arrival of Jacob, who's the third cord, who has all perfect sons. But is it enough to reach a place like that? Is it enough just to become that? The name of the chapter is Vayetzei. The name of a chapter is not just because it's the first word. It tells you something about the entire segment. Vayetzei meant he went. Because the ideal of reaching a certain place and being a certain person is to go out into the world with it and share it with others. Next week's Parsha is called Vayishlach. He sent. At a certain point in your career, you become so much of something that people learn from you, and you can create other help. You can help create other people who want to do the same thing. And then there's Vayeshev. Then you can dwell in holiness. So all of the chapters of the story of the spiritual growth of the universe. And it's only when this is completed on some level by us going down into Egypt that the whole story of Egypt and Mitzrayim and boundaries will come into play. As you know, we'll be discussing the story of Joseph pretty soon. But here's the story of Jacob. And as Brian said, he's raised his family. He wants to leave. 11 children were born in Haran. One was born on the way. Rachel's second son, whose name was Binyamin. And when he's born, Rachel dies in childbirth. That name can mean son of sadness, Ben Yomin, but Jacob renamed him Binyamin, son of the south. He's the youngest. He's Joseph's younger brother. So now we want to know who people are. Joseph and Benjamin have the same mother. 6 of the other tribes have the same mother, Leah, and 2 each have other mothers. But they're all tribes, and they each have a spiritual component that is different. They each have a way of expressing God's existence in a different manner. And they are charged with going out into the world and spreading this. That's why people are different. Abraham has one son who's following him. Isaac has one son who's following him. All of a sudden, Jacob has 12 sons. This is a whole other thing. And they're going to have children. That's going to happen later. So this is our journey. As we learn in life, we should go out into the world and be that person. We should find people who we can discuss things with and go and become shluchim. Just spread the word of what we know by being acting in a certain manner. We should dwell in that place, but we shouldn't just sit there. And then after Jacob comes back and lives in the land, and Joseph has stolen all of these things that we'll discuss later, you see how not just their personalities, but the personalities of the universe evolve. So I'm going to end this with a little bit of, because we're in the month of Kislev, which is the month of light. It's the Hasidic New Year on the 19th of Kislev, because the Alter Rebbe was freed from prison, and it's the time of Hanukkah. But I want to read you something about the menorah. And Brian, listen close, because you've asked this question many times. It's going to be. Each of the temple menorah's 7 lamps correspond to one of the Creator's attributes. There are 7 midot in total: kindness, chesed; gevura, strength; beauty, tiferet; netzach, triumph; splendor, hod; foundation, yesod; and royalty, malchut. So all of the cosmic DNA of how the emotions work in the world were represented by the lights on the menorah. And so when we say, what candle am I closest to, you find out in life. Okay. These attributes manifest throughout creation in dual forms. In other words, they're not just lights on the menorah, they manifest in us, they manifest in all existence. However, says Zelo Mazeh Bora Elokim, God created one thing opposite another. This King Solomon said that. So for every holy attribute, there's an unholy counterpoint. For example, by a progression of descents, love for Hashem can be twisted into just self-love. The fear and anger awe of the holy can turn into unhealthy fear and anger. We must refine these. So when we find out about who we are, we have to find out if we're using that energy in the most refined way. So say you come from a family where everybody was givers, and you just feel like I'm a giver, that's it. But if it's always giving and not receiving or never limiting it, you cause problems. But you say, that's the way I am. No, no, no. You're drawn towards a certain personality, but not every emotion should be the same in every situation. Okay? So chesed and gevura. That's how some people are more strict, a little more judgmental, wonderful, stronger. That's still about you. It's about me wanting to give or me wanting to uh, manifest. Then comes this third thing, which is called Tiferes. Now, most people think and believe because it says that Jacob is Tiferes and he was a mixture of Abraham and Isaac, from which they say he had a mixture of kindness and judgment, and it was balanced. But it wasn't just a balance, it's a whole new entity. An entity that says, not what do I feel, but what does the world need? I feel I want to give. Why won't that person let me? I'm doing this for you. Why won't that person let me give? If someone tells you, leave me alone, leave them alone. No, I have to give. Or I have to, you're doing this wrong. It's for your own good we can have a very good intention. And it could be very much part of our personality. So it's good to know that so that one can ask, at this particular time, is my natural inclination appropriate for the situation? I think one learns that a lot when they have children because they're all over the place. Sometimes you have to have a little bit of a tough love. You have to give them medicine and hold their nose, even no matter how much you love them. You got to take them to the doctor to get shots. You can't say, oh, I don't want to hurt my children. Though you do see children who are hurt by that, rich and not, who were given everything so they wouldn't have to suffer, and they never learned to deal with anything. Did Jacob learn to deal with life? Yeah. He left town. He went to a place called Haran. He left Beersheba, a place of the seven wells of holiness, and went to a place called Haran, which means fierce anger, which coincides with the nature of the physical world. This is a world where godliness is hidden. So I did speak to someone very, very, her life is really having a hard time, but she still says to me every time, I know, but I know God is sending it. I know, she's somehow, and her situation is dire, but she still has this other aspect. So there's a huge change that can come when we study. It can come when we learn the lessons, practice the lessons, but it takes time to integrate what you learn so it becomes part of who you are. Because If you grew up with a certain amount of anger and stuff, it's appropriate in certain places, but it's not appropriate everywhere. How do I take my attribute of might, which is good, and resistance, which is good, and use it appropriately, not just say that's the way I am? That's how we get along with each other. That's how we can help raise wonderful children. And that's how we can make good decisions in our work and in our family life. So I give everybody a bracha. This is just the beginning. And because we should know who everybody is, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob marries, first he marries Leah, and then Rachel, then Zilpah and Bilhah. And then there's going to be the 12 tribes. And they are the foundation of the Jewish people. So these people are all upright. And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are on such a high level, they couldn't even bring the Torah down. They were so high above creation. In fact, the mystics say Abraham's first name was Avram, exalted father. Father is another name for intellect, chachma, wisdom. He was so high above creation, his brain was so, if anybody's ever read some of the Sefer Yetzirah or heard of it, they say he wrote it. Do you ever meet someone who just knows their stuff so well, but they can't tell you about it? It's not because they don't want to. So God adds the letter Hey to his name to make him Abraham, which enables him to communicate what he knows of reality to everyone else. The study of Torah adds to you so you can communicate better who you are intellectually, philosophically, emotionally, in a more direct and true manner. This is an extraordinary thing. It's not learning mathematics. It's not a book per se. It's a cosmic interface between non-existential reality and infinity and our world. And how do we do this? Through the Torah. The Torah is the UBS that you plug in. It's got all the information. And in it, what does it say? Torah dibur b'lashon b'nei Odom. The Torah is going to talk to you in your own language. How else could you understand? And then the question comes up when I learn something fantastic, how do I put it in the language that I could share it with someone else? And that becomes a question. Each one of us has a different style. Some do it with music. Some do it instead of having a conversation to go with, like this and, well, whatever, with all these kinds of things in it. It's more direct. And especially when you come from your own heart. The Tosfos say in the Talmud, words from the heart will touch the heart. Sometimes if you can't get through to someone, first thing to ask is, am I coming from a truthful place? And from a sensitive place, not just from where I want, but from what's needed. And unfortunately or fortunately, sometimes you don't know that until you've made a bunch of mistakes. You try it out. If a comedian tells a joke and it doesn't work, they don't go out and tell it every night. Only humans do that. We do things that don't work and we keep doing them over and over again. The comedian changes the joke, tries it one more time, and gets rid of it. If things in your life are not working because of the way you operate, even though you may blame it on others, change it. Look at it. Ask people you trust. Get yourself a friend that you can discuss these things with. And continue on your own unique, special journey. Because even though we all study the same exact words in the Torah, it's going to take each of us on our own unique journeys, because each of us is a unique candle to bring light to our corner of the world. Give everybody a bracha for Kislev and for all the holidays in it. Hanukkah, you should illuminate your environment, and Yud Kislev, which is the revelation of the hidden meaning of the Torah. on a more direct way, coming from the Alter Rebbe, who put things in an intellectual manner that can be understood by every person. All right, this is Phillip Namanworth. Thank you for tuning in to Creative Spirituality. We'll see you hopefully soon. Thank you and good night.
Every soul is a candle. Every soul is a candle of God, sent down to this world